Hello, folks. This is Andrew Gilmore with another episode of Mostly Movies, Maybe Music. And this is an interesting show today. I was going to mention that my original goal for this show was to do at least 10 podcasts. And I thought if I could do 10, that would prove to myself that I can sustain a podcast instead of just doing one or two and then giving up. I thought if I can do 10, then that's a pretty good track record. So today is my 10th show. And I'm very happy to have as my 10th guest Zach Mitchell, who is a friend from Facebook and also my first guest from another country. Zach is from Canada. And I met Zach through, I think I just said, through Facebook. It's been a long time. We've probably known each other 10 years or more. It's been quite a
Yeah.
while. And we've never had the opportunity to actually meet this way before, but that's one of the cool things about this podcast is that I get to have conversations with people I know through Facebook who I might not necessarily get to have face-to-face conversations with any other way. So Zach is an expert on comedy, which I am. I don't want to call myself an expert, but I know a lot about comedy. And Zach knows a lot about comedy as well, and a lot of things about media, all over the place, radio, TV, movies, music. He's into all kinds of things. And so we bonded because of that, because I have a pretty wide range of interests myself. And we bonded particularly because of our fondness for The Goon Show, which is a British radio show from the 50s. And if any of you out there don't know The Goon Show, then you should just do yourself a favor and stop watching this show and go listen to some Goon Show episodes
Yeah.
because you're missing out on something special. But yeah, we're both Goon Show fans, and that was one of the main things that connected us. And then we found out that we have a lot of other things in common too. And I think we'll just get right into it here because I know I have some questions, and Zach said he had certain things he wants to talk about as well. So,
Well, we've known each other for so long that my entire 20s passed and I became smart for my age to be just considered annoying by most people. I've crossed that metric from my 20s to my 30s.
I hear you. But technically, the guest isn't supposed to talk until I've introduced you, but that's
Oh
okay.
God, sorry.
That's okay.
Should
But
should we start again?
no, it's fine. I don't care. But
Okay.
but anyway, I was almost done, and I was just going to say thank you for being here, and I appreciate you giving me some of your time today, and I'm happy to finally meet you in this way.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
I'm I'm happy to meet you.
yeah, it's a pleasure.
And
So
it's an honor to be on your 10th podcast. This is a milestone for you. Congratulations.
thanks. I hope I can do 20. I'm trying to figure out how I can do that. But
Yeah,
it's kind of a slow process to book people, and I know it took you a while to get here, but I'm glad you're here.
it did because I was in the middle of a class and a video essay that I was doing that I realized I didn't have to do. And I mean, I'm still working on it, but now it's not for a class. So I have more time to fine tune it.
Oh, that's good.
Um, I'm thinking of starting a YouTube channel, but just with video essays.
Oh,
I
that's good.
have just a YouTube channel where I've posted a couple things like my films and I think the most important thing I posted I found a DVD Randy Skretfed, the great Randy Skretfed.
Yes.
Um, he wrote a review of the most recent Chaplin Mutuals
Hmm.
um, release. And because I read that review, he was talking about, the Van Buren Chaplin
Right.
film, the Van Buren scores.
Right.
And I got the DVD he was talking about because I messaged him. So I just uploaded all of the 90s versions of the restored Chaplin Mutuals to YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, I'm thrilled that I have all of them. 1 a.m. in particular,
Oh yeah.
that score just makes the film about 10 times funnier.
Yeah. So,
It's
oh, go ahead.
a actually yeah, I was wondering what your opinion on this was there seems to be an odd trait, no, an odd trend in scoring Chaplin's early films, and I thought that this was apropos because it was Chaplin's birthday yesterday.
Yes.
There seems to be an odd an odd trend in scoring his films as if they're historical artifacts, and all of the music has to be very genteel and polite and,
Right.
like a string quartet or something.
Right.
Whereas with films by Keaton and Lloyd, you don't get that at all. The scores are meant to emphasize the slapstick, but you never get that in modern Chaplin scores. I'm wondering why that is, and if you ever picked up on that, because it basically ruins the Blu-ray Mutual set for me to the point where I can't even watch it.
Well, it's a good point. I hadn't picked up on it, but now that you mention it, I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's annoying. Um, what who do you think who is your favorite comedian working today?
Today, just off the top of my head, I would say Maria Bamford.
She's she's hysterical, and Lady Dynamite is one of the best shows that Netflix has ever done.
Well, I didn't care for that show so much, but I love her stand up.
Yes, her stand-up is great as well. The show got a little broad and almost offensive at times,
Yeah.
when it wasn't intending to be. I mean, I love offensive, but the tightrope act that show did, the tightrope walker fell off occasionally.
Yeah, I
So
think that's typical of a lot of modern comedy. They go too far with things.
yeah,
Yeah. Uh, so I guess there are all kinds of things we can cover here, and so far you've been doing my work for me. I haven't had to ask any questions, but well, you wanted to talk about your vinyl collection, you said. So why don't we go into that?
yeah. It's just I just got something really interesting and cool. I found trolling on Discogs the complete Quartetto Italiano uh, string quartets of Beethoven from the 60s.
Hmm.
And I've got a mint a mint condition copy of the 60s versions of those quartets. It's
Oh, very
yeah,
nice.
I it's yeah, it's probably one of my favorite things I own. I also like, and I cannot believe I own this, but I know you're a fan of Crazy Cat,
Oh, sure.
another thing we share in common.
Yes.
And I got the big blue book, and then I realized, so the big blue book, the hardcover version, comprises, I think, the first 4 or 5 volumes. And then I looked and realized that only a couple thousand copies of them had been made. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. It's falling apart. All of those volumes are completely out of print.
Oh,
Yeah, I've been thinking of, photographing my collection for insurance purposes, but that I could never get again.
yeah.
It's it's weird how they've stopped the Crazy Cat reprints and even the Popeye reprints. You would think that Popeye's a popular character. They should keep him in print. The strip's fantastic. The strip is even better than the cartoons, which I didn't think was humanly possible, but yeah, that it confuses me why Popeye and Crazy Cat are out of print.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I have all the books of all the Sunday Crazy Cats, and I was hoping they would print the dailies eventually, but I
Me
guess there's,
too.
I guess there's so many thousands of them that maybe they can't find them all, or it would be too expensive, or who knows.
Well, the,
But
the good thing with the Disney comic books like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck is that Disney has a copy, like a mint copy of every single strip on file. So
yeah.
they can just use that.
Well, typically I kind of start at the beginning of my guest's journey, so I know from knowing you for so long that you have this wide range of knowledge about all kinds of media. So, how did that all start for you? How did you become so interested in media?
Cartoons. It started with cartoons because then I I just became fascinated with the period that the Looney Tunes were made in,
Yeah.
the Looney Tunes and the Popeye cartoons, and that introduced me to directing, and that was everything. I used to write and direct and film these shorts co-starring my sister when I was like 6 or 7. Now those are completely like wretched and not worth revisiting. But yeah, it was cartoons that really ignited that. And I was reading even before. I think I had gotten through all of Dickens by the time I was like 12. So
Wow.
that was another big thing. And I'm basically a dilettante at all in all areas, master of none, but I'm enthusiastic and I think that counts for something.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way. I can't call myself an expert on movies or various things, but it's like the saying goes, I know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, I guess I should focus on individual things here, but I wanted to talk about radio because I know that's important to both of us.
Yeah.
So I know you've written radio shows yourself, and well, I guess that's a tack I should take because I don't know. I know about your enthusiasm for other people's work, but I don't know that much about the work that you've done yourself. So tell me something about that.
I've directed a couple of short films. Again, one of them, apologies to Milligan. I just have to put this out there. I accidentally plagiarized a Goon Show joke, but this was back when I was listening to the Goon Show like 2 or 3 times a day, and I would get what were Goon Show jokes and what were my own jokes kind of confused sometimes. And
Mm.
I mean, I would love to take it out of the film or take it down, but I'm too proud of the rest of the film. And I removing that joke would kill the structure of it. I made it at a an arts camp where you were only allowed to film the first thing you wrote. You had a period of 10 minutes and you had to write like a 2 or 3 page script. So that's the only reason I plagiarized that joke. It's the joke in the mysterious punched up the conker about the penguins. It's the penguin joke. And I definitely used it in a much different context and a much different tone. But yeah, I regret doing that. But there's been one or two I've made since then that are way more my own tone. I found something, and now that I'm finally on an ADHD med that is working, I feel like I can write and direct a lot more than I was previously able to. Yeah,
Right.
it was it was bad, but it's much better now. Like over the period of like a couple days, my focus is like tripled or quadrupled. So that's nice.
That's good.
I've
Yeah.
for that my whole life. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned just finding your tone as a writer, and I'm always interested in how people evolve their craft. So, how do you think you did find your voice?
I think I've well this is interesting. But I there's this show called Mary Hartman,
Hmm.
and one of my ex-friends whose name I'm not going to say because we had a major falling out.
I hear you.
But he saw one of my films and he was like, there's this one show that's doing exactly what you're trying to do here with this film. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, here, watch this show. And I watched a 2 minute clip of this. And I was just like, God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. How can I make, like, if someone else saw that in my work, it must be very clear what I'm trying to do because, I would have been over the moon and I directed even 1 minute of that show. That
Mhm.
show is incredible. Have you ever watched that show?
No, I've actually never seen it. I've often heard of it, never watched it.
It's so long, but it's amazing. Louise Lasser's performance is humorous and realistic at the same time. But what's really special about that show is the way it establishes like two or three tones going on at once. So in the same scene, you can have a really funny moment, followed by a really tense moment, followed by like a really heartbreaking moment, like all in the span of a minute. And it never feels like they're abruptly switching tones. It's just gliding through them. There's such a high degree of comedic virtuosity. It's amazing. And it's amazing too, given how much they shot, because that was a show that aired, I think, one episode for each day of the week for a year and a half. So they did it like an actual soap opera.
Right.
But she was in, I think, every single one of the episodes in the first season, which is completely unheard of. Yeah, so I don't even know how they memorized all that dialogue, how they wrote all that dialogue, because they're clearly not reading off a cue card. But to answer your question, and I'm sorry I'm rambling, but it was when I saw that show that I knew what I wanted to do because someone else had seen it in me, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. I hadn't heard that before. Yeah. Um, so I get, are you still doing films now, or do you have
Yes.
ideas for what are some
Yes, I
things
do.
you're working on?
Um, well, I'm actually working with the star of my previous two films. We've decided we're going to be writing partners and we're just brainstorming ideas currently.
Yeah.
A ridiculous idea I have is of a disabled person coming out to their family as disabled.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't obvious and the family not liking this at all. Like, what? Now we understand why you were falling over all the time. Just, something like that. Just this really weird concept, and
Yeah.
I'm coming at it from a bit of an insider's perspective as I am, LGBTQ. I'm not going to get into that, but it's just I don't make jokes that are punching down.
Right.
I really do believe I really do believe in that. But most of it is just me making fun of myself, to be honest.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like, and it's weird because all of my films are happy accidents. Like the last one, which to be fair is only a minute long, I arrived at the location, got an idea, and almost threw out the script I had and added like five or six new jokes to the film just in the location. I'm very good at improvising things. I'm very good at just coming up with jokes off the top of my head and then completely forgetting them.
Hmm.
I think that's the main problem with my writing. I'm just joking so much every single day that and I lose most of my jokes and have to forcibly reconstruct them. So yeah, that's hard. But yeah, I'm a I'm a bit of a performer and really shy at the same time.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. So given what you just said, then what's your process generally for writing when you have an idea?
Just okay, my process for writing, and this is going to sound like a joke, but it isn't. Like having an idea, trying to communicate that idea to other people, then them not quite understanding the idea, then
Yep.
me getting even more passionate about the idea until I have to write it.
Yeah, I get it.
It's just, and I know you've written a lot.
Yep.
Speed Laughs is hysterical,
Well,
and
thank you.
yeah, I love that show. It definitely it's like a mix of the Goon Show with I'm sorry I'll read that again,
Oh, well,
which
thank you
is
so much.
it's very lofty territory to even aim towards, but to somehow almost equal it is something I'll never understand. How you were able to do that.
Well,
So
I love both of those shows, so that's an extraordinary compliment. Thank you.
weirdly enough, I started out anyway, you're welcome. Mean that 100%. But with radio, I started off with Fibber McGee and Molly.
Yes, I love them.
I love them, but they're the it's the corniest show imaginable.
Yeah, it is, but it's fun.
Yes, it's really fun. I forget the name of the actor, but I love Fibber going on these rhyming rants and always cracking Molly up.
Yeah,
They're just that's my favorite part of the show. I actually haven't listened to them in a while because when I discovered the Goon Show, it was just like, holy shit. All these other things they know. The thing about the Goon Show is that when you discover it, it temporarily ruins all radio comedy for you
yeah,
because you're looking for something like it in any form of comedy and it's just not there.
yeah,
Yeah. If
right.
anybody knows anything that tops the Goon Show, like, please let me know.
Yeah, well, I was going to just back up there and ask you how you got started listening to old radio shows in the first place.
Well, I, hmm, it was just something. Well, I used to download silent films off the Internet Archive. I was very much, I was addicted to watching movies, so I would always be, trawling through the Internet Archive, downloading anything that looked like it would be cool. And I think it was suspense what I was into. But again, I never would have gotten into old radio or old literature or old movies or directing or writing or anything without Looney Tunes. That
Sure.
was because I would just think, this cartoon looks and feels really different from the other cartoon. And for years before I was online, I was just thinking, someone else must have made this than the other stuff. And other people were clearly working on it than the other cartoons. So when I figured that out, I was like, okay, this is what being a director is. And I've become obsessed with it over the years. Like, I don't watch them nearly as much now as I used to. There was a point, and I can't do this anymore, sadly, but there was a point where I could identify all the animators.
Mm.
But yeah, it's been a long time, and I kind of burnt myself out on them a bit then. But yeah, it all started with cartoons, as
Yeah,
I'm sure it does for a lot of people, because cartoons are the most accessible area of vintage media, I think. Like, I can't imagine someone telling a 12-year-old me just out of nowhere, hey, you should listen to this radio show. You need a point of entry, you know?
yeah, yeah. Actually, what happened for me was my dad gave me this book called The Great Radio Comedians that was written in the 70s. It's kind of a nostalgia piece. And then from reading that book, then my dad started bringing home these cassette tapes. And the first one I had was Fibber and Molly, and I was hooked right away. And then he brought home Jack Benny and some other things, and that was how I got into it. And then I guess it was after that that I was getting more into cartoons, and I started recognizing some of the catchphrases and things turning up in cartoons.
Yeah.
But I certainly am aware of the connection there. But I kind of came to radio from a slightly different angle. So
Yeah. Bob Clampett loved Fibber McGee and Molly for some reason.
Oh yeah.
I think The Great Piggy Bank Robbery has variations on Love That Man
Hmm.
twice, which
Right.
it's weird for a 7 minute film to reference something twice. But a lot of Clampett's gags are actually just old radio references, and it's the way they're animated or put over this the top. I think like half the gags in Baby Bottleneck are just radio references,
Yeah.
but they're still funny. Yeah, I
Yes.
don't know. I don't know how he did that because they should be like if any other director relied on radio references that heavily, their cartoons would be dated. So, yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking of the cartoons that use caricatures that are pretty dated now. Some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just watched the Cuckoo Nut Grove the other day, and I was thinking there's really no joke to this other than the caricatures and going, oh yeah, that's Edward G. Robinson, and that's so and so, and there's not much humor to it outside of that. So I think it doesn't. Things like that don't really hold up as much
Yeah.
as
Well,
some of the others.
Hollywood Steps Out is hilarious.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess getting back to radio, I was going to ask you because if I'm remembering your interview on the Goon Show podcast, you mentioned that you've written some radio stuff yourself, but I'm not too familiar with it. So tell me what you've done.
Well, I try, like, I don't even think I have the recordings anymore, but I wrote complete Goon Show scripts and then attempted, keyword is attempted, to perform them all myself because they were so fast and manic. I couldn't get anybody else to do the recordings with me
Hmm.
because they would go on such wild tangents that no one else could understand my scripts. But the main problem with that is the main thing that contributed to that, pardon, is that I don't know how to format a script. And I've taken like 5 script writing classes, and just it's not that I don't get the structure of scripts or the form of scripts. It's just because of perceptual difficulties, I literally cannot format them. So that's really been an impediment on my development as a writer,
Hmm.
or director for years because I would write these things in these unformatted jumbles and no one could understand them.
Yeah. So you need a Larry Stevens, is what you need.
I do. But with my writing partner, I found a Larry Stevens
Hmm.
because their ADHD actually allows them to hyper focus on formatting and getting everything correct. So just, yeah, I basically found the person who will type basically and contribute hilarious ideas.
Yeah.
I always found Milligan's recollections of Stephen's work, the whole just typing thing. I
Yeah.
told the jokes and he typed. Well, it's really important. Like even if you did most of the jokes, which I don't believe he did, because the episode that Stevens wrote on his own, "The Stolen Postman," is one of the high points of Series 8.
Yes.
Um, but even if you did write most of the jokes yourself, typing them out is a huge thing. You need a translator, or all of your ideas are basically going to be gobbledygook.
Yeah, that's what I noticed when I listened to the Goon shows chronologically a couple of years ago, and I really noticed after Stevens is gone how it really there's still funny things there, but it just descends into total rubbish half the time.
Yes,
He really needed
series
Larry.
9 and 10 are like a no man's land.
Yeah.
Something.
Even though there are things there that I love, but
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at it,
me too.
yeah, looking at it critically, I could see the problems there. Yeah. So then, have you tried to write original things aside from writing Goon Show homages and that
For
kind of thing?
for for radio,
Yeah.
no. I've tried to write a couple novels. One I completed when I was a kid. The others didn't go anywhere. Mostly I've focused on film scripts now. But the problem is there's no film major you can take. There's only a film minor, and the place where you can take, a dedicated film degree, around here, the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, they refuse they refuse to modernize their building, so I don't have to climb up flights and flights of stairs, and
Hmm.
they've refused to modernize their building until I give them 2 years notice to when I'm definitely enrolling. So yeah, that's really an impediment. So I just have to take these film classes whenever they pop up
Hmm.
at my home university and other universities. Really, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, but at least I'm having fun spinning my wheels. So
Yeah, I mean, you can always just write things from home like I do.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. There's all kinds of things. Oh, we were supposed to record this yesterday, and I should explain to the audience that Zoom had a blackout yesterday when we were supposed to record this, but
Yeah.
so we weren't able to do it on the 16th. But here we are on the 17th doing it, and we wanted to do it on the 16th because it was Spike Milligan's birthday, who was the creator of the Goon Show. So, Zach, I know that Spike means a lot to you. So, do you want to just talk for a few minutes about how he's influenced you and what he means to you?
Yes, Spike is just pure joy and creativity. Despite his struggles, there's nothing really despairing in the Goon Show or dark. It's
It
all light.
it can be cynical.
It can't, I mean, of course it's cynical, but underneath that cynicism, there's a life force and almost a love of humanity operating underneath it. It's never cynical and defeatist. It's
Right.
like cynical for, okay, making fun of these people, and being cynical is just another avenue to open up jokes.
Right.
Like uh, I'm remembering something, just saying that, of Norman Lear talking about All in the Family and just saying we weren't progressive to be progressive. We were discovering all these topics and talking about all these topics so we could make new jokes. We weren't trying to be progressive. And you know, that's basically the reason you should do comedy. And if something amazing and progressive can come from that as well, that influences people, that's wonderful. But it never is the key aspect in great comedy, at least for me.
Yeah. So, anything you want to comment on as far as Spike's other work?
Oh yeah, totally. Q is weird.
Yes.
Q is like, I don't know if it is the most inconsistent show of all time.
Yeah, it really is.
It's uh,
I've just seen
it is like
bits of it. Oh,
the
go ahead.
sorry, it is the most hysterical and yet racist thing
Yeah.
I think I've ever seen. Yeah, some sketches are a 10 out of 10, where some sketches are like below zero. He seems to have had an obsession with blackface.
Hmm.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, in a few sketches, I like see what he was doing. He was attempting to use it to comment on it. But I mean, it's like the mid 70s through the early 80s. Like, why are you even feeling the need to comment on it?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, there feels like this weird trend in British comedy where you're, pardon, where this is going to take me a second to formulate.
Oh, that's
You're
okay.
allowed, or it was acceptable in society, to make these racist jokes, especially with blackface, for a lot longer than it was, at least in media in the States. I
Right.
mean, of course, that thing was still going on, and it's always bubbling under North American society, or exploding as it is now. But it's weird. I think that may have been because of the black and white minstrel show
Yeah.
running into the 70s, when people were just desensitized. to all of this. But yeah, I do find that interesting.
Yeah, I do find that a lot of Spike's other stuff just doesn't hold up to the Goon Show. I mean, that's clearly the best thing he was involved in.
Yeah. Okay, the joke that hooked me, I s- it was like my brain exploded. I have never had like more pure dopamine and endorphins released into my system the same way ever in my entire life as when I heard this joke, this Eccles alligators joke. Eccles, how did you get across? How did you get across? No, Eccles, how did you get across that stream? I stepped on that log there. That's not a log. That's an alligator. Oh, I wondered why my legs kept getting shorter.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like that. I think Spike said something like, "We take each idea to its most ridiculous or most illogical conclusion,"
Right.
which has totally been me. Like way before the Goon Show, I would do things like the phone would ring and I would yell, "Come in." It was just, yeah,
Yeah, so you were born to this, really.
yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And it felt like something that fit my brain.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, I wanted to ask you something because I know you're a fan of Zappa, and
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Zappa too, but I'm actually a much bigger fan of Captain Beefheart. And the reason I can't get in to most of Zappa's things is the humor. And I could find it funny, except for the fact that he is clearly, if you watch him in interviews, so much more intelligent than a lot of the material he puts on his albums. I mean,
Yeah.
that early Mother stuff is great, but beyond that, like my favorite Zappa album, I think, is The Grand Wazoo, which is just incredible. Like Cletus Auritus, nothing else has sounded like that ever. But yeah, sometimes I think, especially the misogyny,
Yes.
uh, all of it seems to me to be a calculated kind of disrespect of his own audience that I've never been able to shake. It's weird, but I don't feel like he respects his listeners, which can be fun, but the feeling that the artist you're listening to constantly thinks that he's smarter than you while intentionally doing the dumbest shit imaginable, it's just a weird feeling. And I was
Right.
wondering, because that stuff just does not date well today. And I was wondering about your perspective on that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I realized recently that I haven't listened to Zappa for a long time, so he's not fresh in my mind lately, and I think it's because once I watched some documentaries about him and just discovered what an asshole he was, it just kind of turned me off of his stuff. But yeah, the point you're making is valid that he did do a lot of crass stuff that turns me off, and I don't know how to comment on it beyond that, but he still did some things that I like. I like We're Only in It for the Money and a couple of the other albums.
Oh,
But
that era is fantastic.
yeah, but yeah, it's just been such a long time since I've dug into that body of work that I can't. I don't think I can have an in-depth discussion about Zappa now.
Oh, okay.
So
Um,
I'd have to go back and re-listen.
I know that you had a negative first reaction to Captain Beefheart.
Yeah,
That's I think he's released far more accessible albums than Trout Mask Replica, which is like the most inaccessible record of all time. I would start with the album Clear Spot. Have you
yeah.
ever heard Clear Spot?
Well, I listened to all of his albums actually, and I'm not retaining them at the moment. But there was a point where I
It's
went through all of them.
that thing that they say about Trout Mask Replica is accurate. It took me to like the fifth listening for it to suddenly click, and it was just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing in my life. And I thought it was shit. And I just have to tell everyone I know about it and become an annoying evangelist for the next 6 months, you know. And it. I don't know. The thing that album does to me, and it's unique, and it's the reason it's my favorite album of all time. It has nothing really to do with the music, but the way my brain responds to it. Like for a couple of for maybe like a year, I won't listen to it, but then I'll have the exact same experience I did the first time I heard it, where it takes three or four listens to become acclimated. And I think I never liked this album. This is the worst thing I've ever heard. Why did I call this my favorite? Oh, oh God, like you know. So it's like I'm hearing the music for the first time again almost every time I listen to it. It's insane. I don't know like what the chemistry is or if there's any science behind it, but it's like a magic eye paint, like a magic eye painting for your brain. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I can see, especially for someone who's neurodivergent and the sensory things involved there, how that would happen. And I can think of albums that I heard that I didn't necessarily like on first listen either, and then I go back to them and the light switch goes on, and I go, oh yeah, this is actually really good, and I wasn't getting it. So again, I can relate.
um oh uh actually I think, and like I don't want to bring politics into this too much, but
I
at
try not
least
to.
for right now, I just think politics are humanity, but I'll try not to. Um, I just think my sense of humor has been getting darker lately, and
Hmm.
I've been listening to the Goon Show less, but my mental health is improving. It's almost like, you know, you pass a certain point of darkness and your body acclimates and you're like, well, okay, you know, number one, why am I doing so well? Which is a very, depression thing to think, but sometimes when you're in that kind of, screw everything mode, you're looking for darker stuff.
Yeah,
And I had this routine going for like maybe 10 years where I would listen to a Goon show every day, and I had to stop because I was finally wearing them out. So I can't wait to go back to them again.
yeah. Just make sure you listen to Speed Laughs again afterwards.
Okay. Okay.
uh, well, as long as you were on music, I also wanted to ask you about Tori Amos. I know she's important to you.
Oh God. It's just like, okay, the thing with her is it's it's hard to explain, but it's like just her fan base made me it wasn't just her music, it was connecting with her fans
Yeah,
that made me realize, number one, that I was a bit uh gender fluid because I realized, hey, I actually care about the struggles and problems of women and identify much, 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 much more of them than what I'm supposedly, what I supposedly am. So that was a big moment for me. And another big moment was just, the ability to psychoanalyze yourself and basically lay yourself bare so skillfully and so completely. And it helped me, work out my own biases and become more honest with people. Like, yeah, she's incredible.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's really, of course, I'm connected to the fan community on Facebook, and I've spoken to a lot of people there, and that's probably the most meaningful explanation of what her work has done for people that I've ever heard. So that's quite
awesome.
extraordinary. And well, I met her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really incredible, and I've already told that story on the podcast. I won't go through it again, but
Didn't you hand her a Milligan book?
I did. That's right. Yeah, because I found out she was a fan.
Oh, that's
So
all.
yeah, so that was really an extraordinary experience, and well, she's not touring right now, but if she ever comes to Canada again, then you should go see her. And
Oh, I
yeah,
totally will.
yeah,
I totally will.
If you ever watch interviews with her, then that's exactly who
Um,
she is. She's a very special person. When,
she she definitely comes across that way. There doesn't seem to be a lot of PR for her.
not recently, no. She's not as big as she was 30 years ago, I guess, in terms of mainstream
No,
exposure.
it's like sometimes, and this is my only issue with her, her albums can sound a little overproduced to modern ears,
Yeah,
but other than that, I basically have no complaints. Her album Boys for
Pele,
Pele,
yes.
it 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 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I'm drawn to things that don't make sense because
That's why you're friends with me.
yeah, when you're drawn, past the surfaces of things, you can engage with them over and over and over again. If you're just engaging with a thing that has a surface, and this goes for the Goon Show too, because there are a lot of jokes that you don't get on first or even fifth hearing, and a lot of jokes that are buried because they're delivered so fast or the audience doesn't laugh at them and they just lay there. But if you're only looking for things that have the surface and they're entertaining and there's nothing beyond that, you can't really engage with them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most rewarding kind of media.
Yeah, that's very well put, as is typical for you. And I kind of lost my train of thought there. I was just appreciating listening to you. Uh, well, let's see. I think it's been almost an hour, but what I'd like to do is I had in my notes just some names of different shows and performers and things, and I just want to get your take on various things.
Okay.
Well, this is completely 180 from talking about Tori, but I was thinking about this because I'm teaching a course on silent films right now, and I know that we've talked about Harry Langdon many times, and I was curious how you discovered him, and then if you want to elaborate on what his
He
work means to you.
he is he's like a I don't know. I There was a store called Video Difference in Halifax that just had old movies and then international films, and foreign language films. And I discovered Harry Langdon that way. I got that Kino DVD of The Strong Man and Tramp, Tramp, Tramp.
Yeah.
And I just I just thought at the time, because I was really into Andy Kaufman at the time,
Yes.
and I still am, but I was just like, this man is a performance artist working within the art of silent movies. Like some of the stuff he does really does seem like performance art. Like I don't know, 30 or 40 years ahead of its time. And it's astonishing to me because it's so slow, it's so deliberate, it's so idiosyncratic and so uncompromising that I find it bizarre that he was able to find an audience. And then when I saw the sandwich eating, crying suicide
Okay.
rant on your page, like that was just then I became a lifelong fan of his. I've shown that is my go-to clip that I show when I want to freak my friends out
Really?
because that basically tops everything. You're like, what is this trying to do? Is this funny or horrifying, or is it both? And that's the thing. That's the thing I was talking about with Mary Hartman, is that it slides in between funny and horrifying so much that you don't even know what it is, or you don't know how to react, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. It took me a long time to adjust to him. I had the Lost and Found collection of his shorts, and I was watching it and just going, does this really qualify as comedy? What is this? This is like some other thing that defies comedy. I don't know
Yeah.
what this is, and it took me a long time and watching that set repeatedly to try to figure it out. And now I think he was terrific, but it took many years to figure that out, and I'm still not sure I have it figured out.
He just feels like a figure unstuck in time.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite film of his?
God, I would say, and this is weird to figure out, just point to a road short, but The Big Kick is
Yes,
hysterical.
I love it.
Yes. And it's shot and edited in a much more accessible way than his silence, which seemed to drag. I think by that point they had figured out that the dragging scenes would not work as well in sound film, and the jabbering and inarticulateness of his voice just adds a new and totally hilarious level to his character, to the point where when I'm watching the silent films, I'm almost missing it because, yeah, like what? And you know that he was probably doing that shtick. He was probably doing that shtick the entire time, because in a silent film, his mouth moves quite a lot.
Yeah.
So, that mode of speaking, uh, maybe it came from his stage act. I'm not sure, but yeah, he's just like, I showed one of my friends who ran a film podcast, the the Chaser, and he was just
Oh,
like, did this man make this film intentionally bad? Was he trying to piss off the audience? Like, from a 1928 context, like what is this? So he like read the entire Little Elf book in an
yes.
attempt to understand that film. And that film is completely understand. I love it simply because I have no idea what he was thinking. None. It's just like an inscrutable mystery box to me. I don't know how it works or how to open it. And I think that's why I love the filmmaker David Lynch so much. He's like, a, alongside Spike Milligan, he's been like the major influence on me. And I was very sad earlier this year when he passed. And
Yes.
I still feel like I'm carrying some of that. Like, it's weird. Like, the deaths of celebrities can sometimes feel like the deaths of someone really close to you that you knew.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just, like him. There's this, he gave daily weather reports on his YouTube channel, or did things like on his YouTube channel, like when the ice bucket challenge was a thing. He got dumped with iced coffee while playing a trumpet, playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and then challenged Vladimir Putin to the ice bucket challenge. And I'm just gonna miss that crazy, whimsical, warm energy. And when a lot of people talk about David Lynch, the filmmaker, the last thing that they would use is warm. But again, there's this humanity running underneath his movies, um, that I don't think that I can really um, compare with anyone else, because with him, well, he with him it was like when he had an evil male character, like he was just like, here's everything I want to say about toxic masculinity in a tone that is like I've been, yammering about it to you for 3 months. That's what the Dennis Hopper character in Blue Velvet is to me, among many others in his filmography. It's just like, it's like, this is the worst thing in the world, and I must use the power of my film to singularly eradicate it. You know. So yeah, I'm gonna miss him. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen very little of him, so I can't comment. But
It's Sorry for going off on an irrelevant ramble, but
that's okay. Well, it's my job to steer the ship here. So
Okay.
just getting back to Langdon, I was going to ask you: have you read The Silent Clowns, Walter Kerr's book?
No, I have not. I've heard it referenced.
Oh, that's
Is it still in print?
I don't think so. I have an old copy of it from the 70s. It could still be in print, but I read it
Okay,
recently, and
I'll have to check up on that.
yeah, it's terrific. And he has several chapters on Langdon that really analyze him in a very interesting way. So you would really enjoy it.
Yeah, it really seems like I would. It well, what do you think of Three's a Crowd generally? Because that seems to be a very divisive film.
Yeah, well, you might remember I talked about this on Facebook that I showed it in my class, and it was very divisive there. But I like it. I think it's not his best film, but I find it fascinating. I think it was in the Little Elf book that they talked about how he was really, he'd been through some rough things in his personal life, and he was trying to express something about feeling isolated and feeling lonely, and about the need for someone in your life to love you. And I think you can feel that, even if it's not as overtly funny as his other films. He's reaching deeper. He's trying to say something. And is
You,
it? Oh, go
you
ahead.
totally can. You totally can feel that. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it successful on every level? Maybe not, but I think it touches me. I think it's a fascinating work of art. So there's
I've
my answer.
always, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I've always kind of read him as this coded autistic character
Hmm.
for some reason. Like I feel like the only way that character the only way that characters can be, especially caricatures, which Langdon was, um, I think can be only successful with audiences if they're based on a type that they know. And I'm almost, well, not almost certain, but I feel like Langdon came out of a kind of autistic, uh well, not a autistic. I'm losing my language here, but I think he came out of a place that understood that experience more than most people. I'm not saying he was autistic, but again, it's his uncompromising drive. It's the fact that his character will spend seemingly years obsessed with idiosyncratic minutia, will never seem to do, much of anything, but will be constantly exhausted by having to do even the simplest thing. And it's not that I think his character is lazy. Far from it. I wouldn't call him lazy. He's just like someone who has just woken up
Yeah,
constantly. I reject this whole baby elf thing. I I don't think, because babies don't act like that. Babies are hyperactive, screaming and crying and moving and gibbering all the time.
that's a good
What
point.
could be further away from that than Langdon?
Right, that's a good point. Yeah. I think it's been about an hour, so I don't want this to run too long, but I'm going to throw a couple other names at you.
Okay.
And well, I know we've talked many times about Jerry Lewis. I know he's important to you. So
Yeah.
and I went through all of his, or not all, but most of his films, and I'm not totally on board with him as much as you are. But if you want to enlighten me, this is your chance to do it.
Okay. I'm almost fascinated by him on a psychological level. Like his filmmaking to me is like pure wounded narcissism or something.
Yeah,
Like Jean-Luc Godard said something like, even when Jerry Lewis isn't funny, he's funny. And I find particularly the moments where he's not funny, the moments where he's the most pleading and the most pathetic for the audiences, just begging almost on bended knee for the audience's admiration, like
yeah,
that scene in The Errand Boy, where these characters who were dismissed as Hollywood yes man from the beginning are like to Jerry's character, "You are the soul and nature of movies. You are what the public needs. Seeing this footage of your character messing up, you are the rationale for motion pictures. And it's just so almost schizoid because he's trying to make fun of Hollywood and himself by depicting these guys as parasitic yes men, and yet still he has to have them praise him. It's unbelievably bizarre. So I look at his films. I mean, I do find them very funny, but they're almost these bizarre psychological curios
Yeah,
that happen to be funny. Like I'm just fascinated with him as a person.
yeah. I was going to say, I think the movie of his that I like the most is The Bellboy. I think that's really solid more than some of the others.
Yeah, yeah. The Bellboy's great. The Ladies' Man is my favorite.
Oh yeah, that's just way out there.
Yeah, it takes so many diversions, and the ending is like just this like okay, this woman who the only thing Jerry did for her, she said, "I'm sad." Jerry said, "Don't be." And because Jerry said, "Don't be," she just goes like, "He is a nice person. We shouldn't be treating him this way." Like it's just so over the top and so ridiculous for someone who gave you the least helpful advice that anyone could give to a mentally ill or depressed person. It's just bizarre, and it almost breaks the movie in a weird way. It's like what on earth is this? So yeah, he's the most pathologically needy performer I have ever seen, and I love it. Just like wow, you know?
Yeah, I have a friend that who is a screenwriter, and we often talk about the psychology of acting and all the weird things that go on there. So I can only imagine what a psychologist would have made of Jerry.
He actually his film I think God, what is it? Well, there's this film he made for in his Columbia period that actually deals with psychiatry. I know he was openly hostile to being psychoanalyzed,
Hmm.
which makes total sense to me. Oh, one more thing I've always wanted to say about him, and I'm going to build on this in a video essay I seem to be making. I'm going to be making, pardon. But the Nutty Professor works in this weird way where the audience is like, oh, the main problem in this film is that I wasn't being myself. And I was, no, the main problem of this film is you were being this boorish, misogynistic asshole.
Right.
And for some reason, the way he puts it over on the audience doesn't realize that. And that's like, for me, the perfect portrayal of the stereotype that, the awkward, and I'm not saying this is true, but like the needy, insecure people are often as awful as the jockish, obnoxious people.
Yeah.
As and that film seems to be all about that, but every character kind of buys that explanation. No one disagrees with it, and then Stella Stevens just, grabs the bottle of the potion to turn him back into this asshole, and it's over. But when Jerry's voice is coming back, you can clearly hear, you know, oh God, what is his name? But you can't believe I'm forgetting this. But you can hear that he's actually controlling the Buddy Love figure. Um, so really, it was just him all the time, and that's an implication that the film never goes into, but to me, dictates the entire film in an interesting way.
Yeah. Well, aside from the video essays that you do, have you ever written film criticism or anything like that?
I tried. I I I know it's something that I would be talented at, but my fine motor difficulties make it almost impossible for me to type anything or that matches the speed of my brain.
Hmm.
And my computer's terrible. So whenever I turn dictation mode on, it gets like half a sentence and then stops. So I can't find my footing there. So if I somehow surmounted that issue, I think, yeah, I would be writing film criticism right now because I've always been fascinated by it.
Yeah,
But
clearly,
also
yeah.
I'm never, I almost have this inferiority complex where, I know nothing. Why should I even want to do this? I should just leave this to the professionals. But, you know, a
Well,
professor of mine said your writing is really good. You should submit this to Sight and Sound. I did. Never got a response, but that was basically the end of that. Although I wish it wasn't.
well, the things you write on Facebook are very thoughtful and articulate, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here. So, you do have talent there, and clearly you have a lot of things to say. You're passionate about these things.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there are a couple other names that I wanted to cover, and we haven't really. I don't think we've talked about the Marx Brothers in detail, but I'm sure you're a fan. So, what are your
Yes.
thoughts there?
Huge fan. Harpo is pure anarchy. Just the purest example of the id. And I don't want to get into like psychological language too much, but like there is no reason that Groucho should be funny because he's an asshole to people who don't deserve it. I don't know how that works because usually you can't get good comedy out of having a jerk who's mean to people who don't deserve it. But they live in this completely separate reality where he'll insult Margaret Dumont over and over and over again. And she seems not to notice. I don't buy into that thing. She never got the jokes because
Right.
clearly she did because her facial acting is wonderful, but she'll just stand there almost oblivious and you're like, okay, this exists in this cardboard cutout cartoon world that is completely ridiculous. And, Thalberg kind of lessened that, and that made Groucho seem meaner. So I'm very much a Paramount Films person.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I don't know why everybody considers Thalberg the boy genius when he cut down, like, he was the person responsible for editing down so many great silent films. Greed is the major example.
Yeah.
He cut that film to shreds, and people people are always praising him. Like I don't know. Yeah, he got MGM on his its feet. He was a good executive, but I don't really know where that myth started or ended. I've always been a little confused by that.
Well, it's funny. Have you seen The Wind, the Lillian Gish movie?
No, but I've wanted to ever
Oh.
since I saw your post on it because it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But my point was that, yeah, I'm showing it in class this week, and that is a case where Thalberg, well, I don't know if it was Thalberg or one of the other executives or what, but it takes this really dark turn towards the end, and then they give it this artificial, romantic, happy ending. And I think that's just another example. Assuming it was Thalberg, then that's another example of his bullshit. So there you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, do you have a favorite Marx Brothers movie?
Duck Soup, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
That was when I first saw that film, I was laughing so hard I almost passed out.
Was that the first one you saw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. First one I saw was Night in Casablanca because
Okay.
that was the only one the library had. And I hated the film at that time, except for Harpo's ridiculous sword fighting, carrot eating sequence. It's like, okay, there's something really odd about this that doesn't seem to fit tonally with the rest of the movie. And then I got a box set of the Paramount, so I was just like, oh, okay. And I think the box set of the Paramounts was out of print, so I must have spent like $300 on it or something. But yeah, it was. I mean, the old DVD box set, not the Blu-ray box set, which
Right.
of course now is much cheaper. Um, but yeah, it was worth it. I love the Marx Brothers. I don't know what to say. They like I just feel like again they were unglued in time. There seemed to be this brief fascination though with surrealism in the mid 30s.
Yeah.
That Million Dollar Legs
Yes.
and Diplomaniacs.
Yes.
I don't know what caused that because it seemed to disappear almost as soon as it had begun. And do you know the context for that? Like why all these films started appearing at the same time and then vanished?
I really don't. That is an interesting question. I've thought about that myself. And I guess International House is kind of another one.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned Diplomaniacs. I was going to ask you about Wheeler and Woolsey. Have you seen a lot of their stuff? Are you
I've
big on that?
seen I've seen God, Diplomaniacs and Peach Arena.
Well, those are
Actually,
two great ones. Yeah.
yeah, actually on your recommendation. And
Oh,
just
well,
about people, I've had experience only seeing two films with someone who had never seen them before, and for some reason watched the whole of Diplomaniacs. This was one of my professors, and I had just chosen Diplomaniacs to illustrate like this really simple shot editing technique. The professor came back and was not jokingly, but was actually saying like, "How dare you have made me watch this?"
oh man.
It's just like I didn't make you watch it. I didn't know you were watching every single film. Yeah. But anyway, it strikes me as funny now, but it was really embarrassing.
Yeah, I guess you know that I showed it in my class years ago and people hated it, and that was
I
really
don't know why.
devastating to me. Yeah, I don't know why either. I mean, I love it. I think it's funny as hell. I mean, obviously very problematic now, but it's
Yeah.
still funny as hell. But yeah, there's some other good Wheeler and Woolsey movies out there. I mean, some of them are terrible, but I could definitely recommend three or four others that are worth seeing. I'll send that to you.
Okay, that would be great. That
Yeah,
would be great. I'm interested in seeing more.
yeah. And again, I don't want to keep you too long, but I also, just switching topics here, I wanted to touch on the fact that I know you're very passionate about literature as well. So
Yeah.
uh, I guess there's a couple of questions I can ask you there. Favorite books off the top of your head?
Okay. The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. No question. Favorite book of all time. Actually, if you can allow me to get into something that isn't a sidebar but is a sidebar at the same time. I just feel the need to just quickly alert people to this. The translations that most people tell you to buy of most of the Russian authors, uh, translated by this husband-wife team with the names Richard Pevere and Larissa Volokonsky, they are terrible. Like when I read another translator's version of the Brothers Karamazov, I just realized, oh my God, the book that I had read all my life, that I read like 7 or 8 times, and that was my favorite book, was like reading this book through cheesecloth.
Hmm.
And somehow, like when I read the other translation, the book got about 10 times better, which blows my mind. But yeah, avoid Pevere and Volokonsky if you're ever planning on getting into the Russians because their translations are horrible.
Well, that's interesting. I guess that's not something I expected to hear on this show, but it's additional information that I can put in my brain now, so that's good. I guess speaking of translation, and also we've been talking about a lot of surrealistic stuff, and I wanted to ask you about Eugene Ionesco, who's one of my heroes. I'm probably one of yours too, I'm guessing.
Actually, I I don't know where to start with him. I he
You're not a fan?
It's not that I'm not a fan. It's just that you know, I'm more of a Beckett person,
Yeah.
and Ionesco has never quite clicked for me.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I'm drawn to Ionesco because he's more overtly comedic than Beckett is.
I'm Well, I guess I'm drawn to Beckett because it has my thing of like everything I seem to like really, 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 really love that goes between these two tones at once. It can be really funny and then immediately really sad and then really funny again. Oh, and something else I wanted to say, Kafka is hilarious.
Hmm.
Kafka is so funny. And people don't see him as funny a lot of the time. The metamorphosis in particular, that story is hilarious. Some, our main character wakes up as this insect monstrosity, and his first thought is, oh no, I'm an insect monstrosity. How on earth did that happen? It's he realizes this and says, oh my God, how am I going to go to work? Like
That's
that
which,
that's the premise of the story, and it just gets funnier from there. It's just a joke.
when you put it that way, it sounds kind of a little bit like Milligan, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you're not big on Ionesco. I can skip that.
Okay.
Uh, well, I guess you're probably the only person I could talk to about James Joyce. What do you think of Joyce?
I prefer, well, I love Ulysses, and Ulysses was my favorite of the two big Joyce books until I tried to analyze it for a class. And then I realized that I read Joyce more for texture than sense. So I'm much more a Finnegan's Wake person where
Yes.
I can just read it to myself and, laugh at the shapes of the words.
Absolutely. I'm fascinated by Finnegan's Wake, and I don't even. It's kind of like you're saying. I guess I don't worry about trying to make sense of it. I just enjoy the words and taking that ride. I can just open up a few random pages and look through it, and there's always something there that's of interest.
People think that it's this difficult book, like this abnormally difficult book, but it's not if you don't take it seriously.
Right.
Like
It's meant to be
I
funny.
heard, I heard this, I heard this quote from Brecht, and I don't quote Brecht very like I'm a little bit embarrassed to be all highfalutin and going and quoting Brecht, but like he said, a classic is a book that has lost its fighting spirit. And I think that, every great book or great movie or great painting or any piece of art has the director or writer or whoever kind of poking you and prodding you, kind of existing beyond life in the work itself. And that's why I'm not too sad anymore about the death of David Lynch, because God damn, does he antagonize the audience at every turn. But yeah, God, I forgot where I was going here, but I think that as soon as you analyze works, they lose that fighting spirit. They uh, they lose that quality of specialness, and it's just tied down to what the words mean. And I think that ties back to the Goon Show, that the starting point of the Goon Show, Milligan often said, was a man just muttering gibberish into the faces of authority. It just loses that intangible quality when you try and take it seriously. I think, there's a level on something can be taken seriously and can be analyzed in a really productive way. But I feel like when you take something seriously because you think you're supposed to, rather than you're immersed in the work and have something to say about it, it kills it. It kills it.
Right. Well,
So,
you're giving me a lot to take in there, but
yeah.
I'm just thinking.
Sorry about
But
my rambling.
that's okay. I mean, you're the guest. We're here to listen to you. So, yeah, I think that's just thinking back on the conversation. I think all of the artists that we've touched on have that fighting spirit. I think it seems like I guess both of us are attracted to art that has that kind of vividness to it and makes you think. And I guess I can wrap it up there. And I want to thank you for sharing your passion with me today.
You're welcome. I
And
loved being on here.
well, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm so happy that we connected and that for the first time here we get to really talk to each other in this way. And it's been a lot of fun. So thank you so much, Zach. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.